Thank you, Deloitte, for sponsoring us. And I'm going to introduce our next conference. The title is Talent, a Vital Asset for Accelerating Innovation in Cali-Baja. Worldwide, talent represents a challenge to continue providing the industry's evolution. A continuous collaboration between Tijuana and San Diego provides the talent necessary for advising companies in innovation and growth. The region's unique combination of expertise, resources, and innovation hubs makes it a prime source of talent to drive the evolution of its companies in these industries. I'm going to call our speakers, our moderator, Flavio Olivieri, research professor of SDEDC University. He has over 30 years of experience in economic development strategy and investment attraction programs, specializing in the U.S.-Mexico border region with extensive work focused on manufacturing, information technology, energy infrastructure, health tourism, senior care services, urban planning, and entrepreneurial innovation ecosystems. He holds a Ph.D. in Global Development Studies and is the chairman of board in Serena Senior Care, Inc. So please welcome him, and please come up, Flavio. And now I'm going to introduce the panelists. Omar Parra, Vice President of Engineering, ITJ. He started his career in 2002 as a freelance web designer focusing on the software development path. During his journey, he's had the opportunity to experience roles that cover most of the system's development lifecycle, giving him experience and perspective that have turned out to be valuable in helping him ensure quality and productivity in his leadership style, leading with transparency, communication, and trust as its backbone. So please welcome him. Now I'm going to introduce Taylor Dunne, Senior Manager, Talent Initiatives of San Diego Regional EDC. He is Senior Manager, and he has also spent the last 3 years building out EDC's position in the region's talent and workforce landscape. Taylor and her team work with through San Diego's country's largest employers, education institutions, and partner organizations to lead advancing San Diego. She serves in the Workforce Development Council, San Diego Community College Corporate Council, and the CSU San Marcos University Council. Welcome. Now I'm going to introduce Maria Keckler, Director Strategy and Communications at CSU International Affairs. Dr. Maria holds research positions at the SDSU's Vital Research Center with a joint Ph.D. from Claremont Graduate University and SDSU. Her research explores narrative, neuroscience, psychology, and immersive learning, focusing on empathy, healthcare leadership, and global challenges. With an immigrant background from Mexico City, she inspires to bridge cultures and drive impactful change. Welcome her. So, Flavio, I leave the floor to you.
Thank you. Let's sit down. Omar, you want to come here closer?
Yeah, I feel very far away. But.
You can come closer if you want. Well, good morning, everybody. First of all, I want to thank the Tijuana EDC for this invitation to participate in this panel and congratulate them on their fourth event, especially being hosted here in San Diego. It really represents this idea of a borderless region. As we see ourselves as one region, we need to blur that border in terms of the way we integrate and we create value together. And that's really what this panel is about. You've heard the backgrounds of our panelists, and we have the experts that can talk about the subject of talent. And I would like to build upon one of the remarks of Luis Hernandez when he said we need to move from economies of scale to economies of skill. And that's a really good phrase that really represents the potential of these binational regions. So I'm going to bring the discussion, or we're going to bring the discussion to the San Diego, Tijuana, or the Cali-Baja mega region. As he noted, we have the presence of many multinational corporations that create value all over the world. And we've excelled as a region in terms of cost efficiency, of logistics, of reducing costs. One of the gentlemen around here was, let's focus on cost. we've excelled on that. When you look at the graphs of reports of efficiency improvements of many of these corporations that are located in the region, you see that it's a long tail. That in the last 10 years, the efficiency gains are tiny because they've done such a great job. And that's why we export a lot of our talent. How many of your friends that have been imported into the corporate offices and now are expanding their knowledge about the efficiency? So what we need to focus now on is how do we increase value together, not just efficiency. How do we increase value? And San Diego has excelled in creating value, in innovation. So the talent pool that is required to sustain that and grow that is different, right? So as we see the challenges that San Diego has in terms of the pipeline of talent, if we view it as a region, then the opportunities are different. So that's kind of the stage for the discussion today. And before our panel here, I forward on some questions to the panelists, mainly about how can we, as a region, create the talent development system at the binational level. What are the key areas of talent that we require? Where are the opportunities? What are some of the success stories? And so those questions kind of put the framework for the discussion today. And they will give a quick overview of what they think about these issues, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. And we're going to start off with Taylor.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Taylor Dunne. I lead the Talent Initiatives team for San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation. For those of you that aren't familiar with our organization, we are a privately funded nonprofit that works with and through 200 or so companies from the region to drive an inclusive economic development strategy. That inclusive word was added relatively recently as a result of some research that we did back in 2017 with the Brookings Institution to understand what the major barriers to growth were in San Diego's economy. And one of the main takeaways was that we were not producing enough what we refer to as skilled talent. Others were around the quality of jobs and small businesses, which make up a very large portion of our economy, and the affordability crisis that we have here in San Diego. I'm going to talk a lot more today about the talent piece of that. What we came to understand was that we have an innovation economy that's thriving here in San Diego that I think crosses the border into Tijuana as well. And the jobs that fill that innovation economy require skills that are not inherent to us as humans. We have to go to some sort of education to learn them. And so what we found and the data that we came up with and the goals that we set were that we needed to double the number of people that were graduating with some sort of post-secondary education by 2030 in San Diego alone. So we've had that goal set for about 5 years now, and we've been working through various ways in San Diego that we can look at that. And something that we've begun to realize over the last couple of years is that what we refer to as a skilled worker could change. So what is a post-secondary education? Does it have to be a four-year university, or could it be some sort of other training that an individual gets through years of experience, through a boot camp, or through some other form of education? This was sort of reinforced in conversations with employers that shared with us that they were having two major problems. One was, there's a numbers issue, right? We can't find enough people because there aren't enough people here in San Diego or across the US. We have about 1.7 jobs open to every one person that's unemployed across the country. So literally a numbers issue. We have to open up the border and make sure that there's access to talent on both sides, right? We have to look at other sources of talent beyond what's available in the US alone because there physically aren't enough people to fill the jobs. The second challenge was that the people that they do have in the jobs are very homogenous. There's not a lot of diversity of thought. There's not a lot of diversity in the way people look. There's not a lot of diversity in how they got their education and therefore the way that they think. So we're doing two things to address both of those problems. Number one, we need to make sure that folks in San Diego, and when I say San Diego, I mean the cross-border community as well. We know that about 20% of the students in San Diego Unified School District and Sweetwater have also gone to school in Tijuana at some point in their life. So when we're thinking about the future workforce in San Diego, we should be thinking about students in Tijuana as well. We know that we need to make sure that all of those people have access to the really high-wage jobs that exist here in San Diego. The other thing is that we need to make sure that businesses know about training programs that exist in our binational region that are teaching to the skills that they need and reaching and serving a population that's different than what they've got now, because the problems that they're going to need to solve, the technologies that they're going to need to use in the future are going to require people who think differently, and that means that they've come from different educational backgrounds. So what we do at EDC is we collect information from the employers in our region about what they really need. Take away the degree requirement, take away what you think you need, just tell us the skills that you need. And then we'll help highlight which training programs, specifically across San Diego up to this point, but we'll talk about potential, right? Potentially in Tijuana as well, Imperial Valley, we're already working there. What training programs are teaching to those skills and reaching the population that's missing from your workforce now? And then we can highlight those for the employers and say, yes, these traditional sources of talent that you've been going to for the last several decades are great, and they will continue to provide the talent that you need. But when you need more and different talent, here are some other options. And I think that's a huge potential for us to be collaborating across the border to understand where folks from different backgrounds and different upbringings and different education systems can help to solve the problems that businesses are facing now.
Thank you very much. Now, Maria, from the education side and the talent development provider, one of the biggest in the region, what are your perspectives on this binational cooperation potential?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I totally agree with what you just said, because we need to work together across many domains. I am Maria Keckler, and I have a number of roles at San Diego State, and so I want to speak from those perspectives. I lead communications and strategy in international affairs. And so when I think about what we're doing specifically from the international affairs lens, we understand that there are a number of skills that our students are going to need. One of them is really developing cultural awareness and the ability to not only have the technical skills that they will need for the particular job, but also the soft skills that are going to truly elevate them to the next level. I'm going to share a couple of stories because I think you'll remember what I say better. But I remember early in my education, I went and I was taking a class, and the professor asked us to go and interview people within the field that we wanted to go into. Now, at the time, I was in community college in Santa Maria, California, and I thought I'm going to be an English major because I'll never have to deal with technology. And so I go in, and I thought I'm going to be a professor one day. I'm going to be a teacher. And so I went in and I interviewed a professor, and I asked her, I said, I know it's so competitive to get a tenure job. Can you tell me what is it that I can do to get one, to stand out? And she said, Maria, if you're good, you're going to stand out. But if you are tech savvy, you will really stand out. Well, I had to reassess my plan, and I just became more curious about technology. And before you know it, I was actually, after graduation, after getting my master's degree, I was leading instructional technologies for a K through 20 consortium. And I can tell you that now, when we think about students, if I were to tell them, and in fact, I mentor many of our students, and when they ask me, what is it that I can do to really stand out, I would say, if you have the skills, if you have the degree, if you have the informal education, all of that is going to help you. But I will say that if you really want to stand out, become a master at those soft skills. Become a master communicator, learn how to build relationships, know how to disagree in a way that is productive, to articulate ideas, to be able to understand how to work within different cultures. And so that's one of the reasons I am so excited that for the last 5 years, When I came to San Diego State, President Del Torre asked me to lead what is now called the Border Conference in terms of how do we reimagine the border region. And we have to reimagine it by the way that we engage with the region. And so what we have been doing for the last 5 years in collaboration with some of our partner institutions in Tijuana, UABC, COLEV, CETIS, we have been putting this conference where we bring students, where we bring professors to interact with industry leaders, with community members, nonprofit leaders, and be able to have these conversations about what is going on in our region, not just from a researcher perspective, but really what it looks like for community members that are actually, doing the work that we are affected by, right? So that is one of the ways that we are exposing our students to that informal education through internships, exposing them to both sides of the border. Now, my boss, Cristina Alfaro, who could not be here today, she's traveling, she's a huge advocate for promoting and honoring our bilingual and bicultural assets. And so one of the things that we started doing at San Diego State University is we launched the University Seal of Biliteracy and Cultural Competence. And that is a way that for those students that want to really be recognized for those bilingual, bicultural skills, now they have a way to be able to be assessed, not only from the reading, writing, speaking, and communicating perspective, and be able to have a digital badge both in their diploma, but also in their LinkedIn profile. Because all of us who are here, who are probably bilingual, we don't realize that that also elevates us. All over the world, being bilingual or trilingual or more is just a given. It is something that we do. But we know the history of California, for example, that was not always applauded, right? And so as a university, we are committed in really elevating those skill sets that are going to set our students apart. And I will conclude with another area. This is more in my research, my area of research. I am a research fellow and co-investigator with these two centers. The VITAL Center of Research stands for Virtual Immersive Teaching and Learning Research Center, and also the RISE Center in Imperial Valley. The RISE Center stands for Research, Innovation, and Student Engagement. And the research that me and my team are conducting is specifically addressing the problem of declining empathy in the healthcare profession. We have masses of research that show that the longer a student is in their career, in their educational journey, and also in their healthcare career, the less empathy they have. That all of us here, regardless of our background, all care about that, right? Because we are the patients, and we all are touched by that. Guess who is most impacted by that lower empathy? People of color, people of diverse backgrounds, people that are in specific zip codes, socioeconomic status. And so what our research is doing is identifying how we can use micro-story interventions, patient stories, to help move the needle on empathy. And obviously, that is a bigger problem than just the educational piece. We know systemic issues. We know that burnout. There are a number. This is a wicked problem. But what we're excited in terms of preparing the next generation, specifically in healthcare, is to help graduate students who not only actually walk away with empathy, but also know how to maintain it in the workplace. And so our hope is that we will be able to collaborate with healthcare agencies. Any of you, I would love to talk to you if this is of interest to you. But just as I'm talking about healthcare, every single industry is going to need very specialized skill sets that transcend just the technical and clinical aspect, right? Some of those clinicians, some of those scientists, engineers eventually, we were talking about this earlier, eventually will lead teams. They will have to step outside of the lab or the research to be able to lead people. How do we prepare them with the leadership skills, with the communication skills, collaboration skills, empathy skills, so they can actually address the wicked problems our world faces? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Well, Omar, I mean, your career has been focused on identifying and developing talent to be able to integrate into the value chain of many technology companies in the US. What is your experience in terms of how do we identify those skills and how do we integrate this value chain in terms of talent and having the people, the resources that we need?
Sure. So, yeah, first of all, Omar Parra, Vice President for ITJ. And I think it makes a lot of sense if I do explain what my company does in order to answer that question. But I do want to clarify first, before anything else. That shirt is white with black stripes, and the tie is black, and this is white with blue, and the tie is blue. So it's different, right? I want to clarify that. I think that's important. I have a few bets. Anyways, but having said, yes, very important, right?
Important stuff, right?
Yes. Having said that, so ITJ. ITJ is a company that basically is in the software development industry or field. What we do is create center of excellence for clients in the US, right? So particularly and primarily, or uniquely, I don't want to say uniquely, but mainly we like to focus on creating these centers of excellence, of software excellence, for companies that are in the biomedical and life science field. It's not uniquely, we do have a few other partners, but primarily we do that. It's kind of known with the notion of nearshoring and stuff. We do a different model. There's a lot of great companies out there that do that, but we focus more on basically, we built a center of excellence for the companies as part of their own strategical global growth. And we operate it, and then we basically trespass that center of excellence to the companies, right? So something that's very important for us, as you can imagine with any center, is growth, right? So when we talk about talent, it's not just about a company will reach out to us and say, we want 2 developers and that's it. Honestly, when we create centers, we're thinking 200, 500, whatever, right? So from day one, we're always concerned and thinking about what's going to be our own strategy to be able to hire folks. And what we don't want to do, and I think a lot of companies in the region agree with this, is we don't want to start cannibalizing talent, right? Moving people, from one company to the other and then coming back. We don't want to do that. There's nothing productive or good in that. What we want to do is basically invest in universities, right? And this is where I think our company kind of connects with this conversation very well, because we really believe that in order for this talent to be able to have great jobs, they need that opportunity to be able to connect with companies and have a work experience opportunity, right? My own trajectory kind of connects both with our company culture and goal, but also this particular aspect, because I studied in UABC a few years back, and as a computer engineer. And honestly, I had no idea what I was going to do. So it was very difficult for me to I did it, but it was difficult to get into the workforce and also try to identify what would be my career. Like as a computer engineer, it's very general. So it took me a while. At some point, I did discover that I wanted to be a software developer and so on, and I did that for 10 years, and then I transferred to management. But the point being, I don't want new kids to basically go through the same thing, right? So what we do, for example, as a result of some of the activities and initiatives that we worked on, is create a trainee program, for example. This trainee program is meant for students in the region, and we also have folks from UCSD and some other universities as well, SDSU, that come in and basically are kind of part-time workers. We do give them the opportunity to work not on, let's call them not dummy projects, but actual work. They are embedded into real software development teams and they start working. Generally, these students are in the last 2-3 semesters of university, and the program lasts a year, maybe a little bit more if they desire to do that. But the cool part is, by the end of this program, they actually have work experience, right? They have the ability to basically go into interview and have all of these, great skills. But also, they can apply for us or basically apply for somebody else. But we do give them this opportunity. We think this is a great way to develop talent locally and kind of avoid that, what I mentioned originally, that cannibalizing talent. Part of what you mentioned, Maria, which I think we kind of connected earlier a lot, was it's not only about technical skills, right? And this is what this job experience, this program gives them, which is soft skills. When we interview folks, just regular FTEs, permanent employees, or trainees, we focus a lot on behavioral skills. Communication, they need to be able to work well with teams, learning agility, adaptability, negotiation skills, as you mentioned. And this goes all the way from an individual contributor to a leader. Our managers are basically training these things. But again, a trainee, for example, going through the program gives them that, because they're put in this team environment when they need to work and collaborate and come up with results, adapt. There's challenging coming every other day, so they need to kind of find that way of solving the particular issue. But also communication. They're communicating on a daily basis with partners and peers in the U.S. So again, it's about that. It's developing. I'm very proud to think about examples. For example, examples where I have trainees that actually now give talks. Like they're part of training programs, boot camps, and stuff, and they're doing that themselves because they starting developing little by little those abilities. Now, another aspect that I want to talk is that's the trainee program. We also have boot camps and tech talks that we do basically open to the public. And with COVID, one of the things that changed is that it's very normal basically to do this online. So technically, this is open to the world. We've had folks from India and other parts of Latin America joining as well. But basically, we do that, and those are free because that's the other aspect. We also see young talent, but we also see the talent that maybe did the same thing for 20 years and is looking for a different opportunity. We do that. We provide that training, and now they're able to apply for positions with us or somebody else at the end of the day, right? But what I'm trying to kind of showcase right now is different initiatives outside from just hiring and providing these great job opportunities, but also collaborating very closely with the universities so that these programs make sense. For an instance, some of these trainings are UCSD accredited, so people can actually get credits when they take these trainings. And we're working with more, right? So even earlier today, Maria, we're kind of exchanging cards and saying like we need to talk, right? Because we're doing a lot of this locally. So yeah, so that's what I can share of my own perspective and how it connects with the local talent. And yeah.
Could you share with us a little bit some examples of the companies or the types of activities that some of your customers are doing in Baja?
Yeah, so that's a great point when we talk about what we do. We primarily, as I mentioned, focus or work with biotech and life science. So we have companies that work, for example, in cancer research. Some other companies work in cancer research, but also diagnostics and predictive ways of doing that. Diabetes management, DNA sampling and genome studies. So a lot of our companies basically work in different aspects of these areas. And the cool part of all of this, even though we focus primarily on software development, that is the type of talent that we provide, is to be able to provide meaningful jobs to these folks. Opportunities with companies that they can feel really proud and connected with the actual product they work with. There's nothing wrong with working with, I don't know, Ticketmaster or something. But if you say, I'm actually working with a CGM company that's monitoring diabetes on kids, and you know that that's what's at stake, it's very different, right? You feel connected to the product, you feel engaged, you feel that an error can be fatal, so you understand that, so it's very different, right? So those are the type of companies that we tend to work with. And again, when we come in, makes more sense when they talk about strategical growth, right? So something that was mentioned earlier by Taylor was, the advantage of this region. And I do see that as a very unique opportunity, and a lot of us are trying to we're shouting that day to day, saying like, this is unique, you guys need to take advantage, because companies here in California, particularly in San Diego, are able to invest and have that strategic investment on a COE, a Center of Excellence or talent. In Mexico, 20 minutes away. So this is not common, right? Previously, people were setting up shop in Monterrey, Ciudad de Mexico, India. But right now, it's this unique opportunity with the region saying like, hey, I can go to the office to meet the folks, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, have great lunch, connect with them, come back, and the trip is basically 4 hours or whatever. Compared to India, where actually I worked on Center of Excellence in India, it was 36 hours to get there, and then a little bit more to get back, depending on the stops. Something that I do want to highlight and kind of connected to also the talent, the Latin talent. I've noticed this on my own experience with different companies, but I was super surprised to hear this from a random person a few weeks ago, from just again, random conversation. When they talk about investing in Center of Excellence or talent, a lot of people do think automatically India, right? And they say like, oh, India, it's the right choice. I've never said it's not. I think it's just a different strategy and maybe complements. But what I've heard, and what I heard this person mention, is the different type of talent. Like the people are very different, right? Very technical, very goal-oriented, very precise. Yes, India. But when we talk about R&D, trying to come up with initiatives, with more creative processes, when communication is more important, when you need somebody that will challenge you and tell you, is this what we want to do? Wait, why are we doing this? Is this connected to this? When you get that, then you kind of see people click and say like, wow, this is a very different type of talent. So again, it's not only about the location and just having people, it's the type of people that we have here that we need to take advantage. So yes, I think that just continuing to invest here, and not just only bring folks from outside, just basically invest in this area, in the students and such, for me it makes so much sense, because again, we do have something very unique, and I don't think it's worth losing.
Thank you very much. I had the opportunity to visit one of the companies that have graduated, let's say, from your services, Insulet. Mm-hmm. And not only do they do software, they do a lot of equipment testing and calibration. Right. So when we think about the value chain of key industries, so from the different steps in how they create value, it doesn't really matter if they're biotech, or maybe manufacturing, or some of the sectors that Luis Hernandez was talking about. So he had cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a big, you just released a new study on cybersecurity here at the San Diego EDC. So it's a big sector in San Diego. Of course, biotech and biomed, all of the genomics and everything related to personalized medicine, right? So there's so many different steps in that chain, right? And so as we identify those key sectors and those steps in the chain, how could we identify the binational opportunities? So where are some of the gaps, and then how do we integrate both academic institutions on both sides to work together? We're at SETIS, and some of my colleagues from SETIS are here. We are hosting the president of Southwestern College later today. He's going to visit us, and we're going to talk about how can we collaborate. There's a project in the city of Chula Vista to have a higher education district. Those are the kinds of things. So with those questions, like what would you see in terms of what would be those key sectors and maybe some of those steps in the chain that we can focus on so we can start to identify a path forward? Where do we start? Right.
I have two thoughts. The first is something that's happening right now, and then the second is something that we see coming down the line. The one happening right now, I'm familiar with what's going on in San Diego and the data here. Our number one most in-demand job in the economy is registered nurses. That's pretty consistent across the country. Number two is software developers. So as far as what we need right now, I think continuing to leverage programs like Tijuana and continuing to leverage training programs in Mexico that are training software engineers, training IT talent, that's something that we cannot get enough of right now and that needs to be ramped up. What I see as potential for down the future things that are like innovative industries that we haven't even seen happen yet. So I think about like lithium energy and different energy sources. Sometimes the systems that exist here take a long time to change. And so I think there's an opportunity to make more rapid change and be more responsive south of the border to help develop the economies on both sides. Those opportunities allow us to continue to think into the future and continue to work toward the things that need to happen while, realizing the constraints that we're facing in some of the, systems that exist in our economy here.
And that's a great perspective in terms of really looking forward, right, in seeing what are those emerging technologies that are going to be in demand, those 4 acts that Reese mentioned. Of course, those are precursors to a lot of development into the future. So in order to accelerate the process, maybe it's easier when it's going to be new to start from scratch, right? And so, Maria, how can we build on those relationships? You have this Reborder conference. What are the outcomes? How can we actually have some actionable items coming out of that conference? How do you see that collaboration in the academic world?
Yeah, no, and I love that you mentioned nursing and lithium as a future or evolving emerging technology, because San Diego is really at the forefront of both and developing those sectors. You probably know that San Diego State received a grant from Governor Newsom, $80 million to develop lithium. Research center in Imperial Valley. So we're very excited about how that is moving forward. Of course, our innovation district emerging in Mission Valley. Thank you. I blanked out. Mission Valley. But specifically, the Reborder Conference, it was always very important for President LaTorre to make sure that this was not an academic conference, that it was not just academics talking to academics about their research, but it was really about having these conversations that emerge with some measurable outcomes. And so very specifically this year, we have our Division of Research and Innovation has given a very small seed grant. So it's only $5,000, but $5,000 is not nothing, right? And so what we're hoping, what we're going to do is we have the second part of the conference, the second part of the day, we have a think tank a la, Shark Tank, where the teams of binational researchers and their partners in the community will be able to do this flash presentations talking about a very focused, specific project. And that project could be developing something that goes right into the community, related to education and building the talent development, but also it could be having the resources to be able to develop a more comprehensive research grant so that they can really move bigger projects forward. And so we're very excited about that. We have a lot of representation from the community. If you have not checked it out, I invite you to go to the website, San Diego State University, and just type Reborder, and you'll come up with it. But we are very committed to make sure that these conversations are not just academic conversations. We really know that one key element is to have an entrepreneurial mindset. And in order to do that, you have to be thinking outside the box.
Thank you very much. Well, I think we have time for Q&A now. So there's some hands. And just before we go into the audience questions, very quickly, next year, San Diego and Tijuana have been designated the World Design Capital. How can we leverage this opportunity to focus on this issue of talent development? How can we use the occasion of being in the spotlight for design thinking? So how can we design, or how can we leverage this opportunity? So think about that, and maybe you'll have some ideas before the end of the conversation. So we have at least one hand on this side, Fernando. And
I think she has the mic right
Who's
here.
the mic? Where's the mic? Oh, the mic's over
Somebody's
here.
holding the mic.
Thank you, Flavio. And well, there was a great presentation, Taylor, Maria, and of course, Omar. It was a great presentation. My name is Victoria. I come from a nonprofit in Tijuana. It's called Promotora de las Bellas Artes. And I really care about this topic because right now, well, we have 30 years working with kids in the border, and we do feel that the talent is a key to avoid like the inequity, but it's not only the talent or to foster the talent. Like Maria said, it is crucial to foster a entrepreneurial mindset and everything, but I have a question for you all. Like Taylor, you said something that the first that there was this keyword inclusion that it was added. And I think that it is right now maybe like a trend to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. However, I really think that if we want to address, like you said, the high problems that we have at the border, we really have to have new people thinking about those like, so the second thing you said, besides numbers, the homogeneidad, homogeneity, what's the word? Sorry.
Homogeny, yeah.
Homogeny?
Yeah.
So but right now, I think that the thing is not only to, it sounds so nice, but how can we really avoid or address mobility issues, language issues, income issues? Like there's a lot of kids at the border. What can we really do to foster corporate responsibility and find those geniuses, like bring them up? It's not only if they're at this at the superiors, o sea, si están en CETIS, they're at the other side. How can we get them from the barrios to the schools, or from the public schools to those others? What is the key task for corporate responsibility?
Yeah.
Sorry for the
I don't know. Well, I can briefly allude to that, and it's funny you touch on that topic because I was talking about this last week. It's not only about universities. You're right. I mean, CETIS is one university. We have OBC, we have many, but still, when people get to that level, maybe they kind of already overcome a lot of things, and there are a lot of people that are still struggling to get to that point. I do feel that there's a corporate responsibility to invest. And honestly, it's small programs. It's, for example, being able to do talks to high schools, secundarias, junior high, things like that, where we can show folks what these careers are and what they can be in a more tangible way, and especially with women. Like we women in tech is getting there, but still, yeah, we still have a long way to go. I'm very proud to work for a company that the CEO is a woman. But we always think about how can we improve this, right? Right now, I think our ratio is 25%, which is not super bad, but we want to hire, right? In leadership, we have 50% of our leadership team being women. But yeah, we do need to do that. We need to reach out to the high schools, to those parts of the neighborhoods, and basically explain what these opportunities are, because I don't think they know. So anyway, so what it's worth, I think it's just a matter of having presence and doing these, free events when people can come in and just play around and get excited about technology. Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I would say also, it's not about making the corporate social responsibility case, it's about making the business case. Mm-hmm. This isn't like, we're not gonna survive if we keep doing this out of the goodness of our hearts. We have to do this in order to make sure that we have the talent that thinks differently, that can work on problems in teams, like you said, that come from different perspectives and can contribute different perspectives, to make sure we have enough people to fill the jobs, right? Like we're talking to companies that are having a hard time finding talent, and then you find that only like 19% of the economy is the jobs are filled by Hispanic people in San Diego. In San Diego, like 49% of our K through 12 population is Hispanic. So the numbers aren't adding up. There's a business case there. I think the corporate social responsibility really comes in the point that Omar made. Like when we're looking way far down in the talent pipeline, there is still a business case to make that investment, right? We're investing in the talent pipelines way earlier, just like you'd invest in a building or land way before you'd ever move into it, right? So why aren't we investing in talent in the same way? But maybe a company might see that more as a corporate social responsibility move to go present in a middle school classroom or something like that. When we're talking about recruiting from different training sources, when we're talking about getting creative about how you get people in the door and keep them there, that is a business case. You have to do that to continue to survive, I think.
Since the business case and the corporate responsibility has been touched on, I want to take it more to maybe a personal level. Because a lot of the times, we think about all the institutional and systemic issues that we need to get through to be able to enact, what has been talked about. But I will say that one simple thing all of us can do walking out of this room is really going to the high schools, going to the barrios, doing all those visits and inspiring somebody. We all have a story that can inspire that student to believe that they can move into a better future. I have often been invited to high schools, to AVID programs, where I never wanted to share this because it's like, I've made it, and now I'm going to move on to my career. But I was so moved to be invited and to hear the stories of the students, I felt like I owed it to them to share mine. And so I talked about how I was a first-generation immigrant, and my first job was in Los Angeles in a sweatshop, where you had dozens of Asian and Hispanic workers putting together silk blouses, and my job was to go around with my little scissors and cut the little threads off and then put the plastic. And it was not a fun time in my life, having lost my father as a young girl. And when I have shared that story, I have received so many moving letters, and I had one particular student who I'll never forget, who pulled me aside, told me how she would hide in the bathroom to do her homework when her mother would bring strange men into the house. And she said, all my life, I've been waiting to meet someone like you. I now know I will make it. Each and every one of us here has a story of overcoming. Great odds to be where you are today. This is a room full of leaders, impressive, intelligent people. And we talk about those successes on our LinkedIn profile, on our social media, and the networking events that we go to. But to get here, we had to overcome tremendous odds. We had to overcome shameful situations, hardships, loss, failure after failure, maybe being rejected. They need to hear those stories too. And I believe that when we begin to do a combination of what is being talked about in this panel, we will get further ahead the more we commit to do it from the personal and institutional and corporate side.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Maria. We have another question on this side.
Great presentation. Thank you so much. I'd like to take an opportunity to ask you about how can we leverage the memorandum of understanding that we have for the Cali-Baja region to have a more systematic approach to take advantage of the strengths of both the California and the Baja region into not just promoting talent and developing competencies, skills, and abilities, but actually have a systemic presence of entrepreneurs, government, education, and every people involved in the process to make sure that people is not just instructed or thought about technology or emotional intelligence or cultural intelligence or inclusive and diverse intelligence, but all kinds of intelligences, because we have to become consistent with what we bring to the table, but also we have to have a systemic approach to integrate all those competencies and skills as a whole, as an integral intelligence. What would you recommend we can do in order to achieve that?
And I have bad bad news is we only have 3 minutes. So it's a great question, and there was one more hand on the back, so I don't know if we'll have time. But if you can just keep in mind that we have a short period of time.
Oh, so that was a little bit of a long-winded question. I don't know. I mean, I'll try to do my best to at least share my 40-second thought. Yeah, I agree that we need to do that consistency. I'll go back to the same thing. I'll preach the same thing, which is collaboration. Companies need to be very closely connected with universities so that they understand, not that they don't necessarily, right, but they understand these skills that are super important, and we work together in programs where these are going to be imparted and shared with folks. This way we have more, maybe to your point, holistic or wholesome people, right? Not just the very technical and that's it, or the very good in communication, but really people that are a little bit more complete, if you will, with all of these abilities. And again, things like that collaboration and giving them an opportunity to work on a work environment like a trainee program. Again, I think that needs to continue. Right now, it's very early stage. Maybe to Taylor's point, we need to do it, right? We need to do it. Right now, some are, but it's just early stage. We need to continue investing and investing way more. So I would say that.
I will stay within the personal theme. Learning how to play chess in Mexico with my dad, he always said, it takes only one move to change the momentum of the game. And so if I were to give you one move that could change the momentum of the game for everyone here and those you serve, would be one advice that I received from a mentor. And he said, every person should have a mentor and every person should be mentoring somebody. So no matter how high are you, you should have someone that can speak truth to you, and then you should pay it forward and be mentoring the next generation.
I think when we're talking about resources or ways that we can use, you mentioned MOU, to leverage both sides of the border. I think thinking about our programs and initiatives that exist on both sides and how we can pull them across. I think about my own program and the fact that we focus so much on training programs here in San Diego County, while there's a large opportunity across the border that we could be highlighting for employers still. So I think just a habitual change for us as the folks that are running these great programs on both sides of the border to continuously remember to reach out to our counterparts in Tijuana or in San Diego to say, hey, we'd love to have you. We've talked about this already. How can we get SETIs on the verified program list? So how can we make sure that at every opportunity we're opening the door to each other?
Unfortunately, we don't have time for other questions, so please give a big hand to our panelists. Thank you very much.
Flavio, Taylor, Maria, Omar, thank you so much. We're going to have a break for about 15 minutes, so if you have any more questions, our speakers are still going to be here. We're just going to have to continue with our program. And I'm going to ask Adriana Guia, Jose Guillermo Hernandez, Kenia Samarripa, and Gonzalo Gomez to come up and give an award and recognize our speakers today. Thank you all very much. And we're going to continue at 11:20, so I'll see you back then.